All right, we are now picking up in Chapter 16. We're at the bottom of page 611, and we're going to work through the exercise here. Now, I know that for those of you watching this video that have come to rely on lecture videos to kind of help you through some of the materials, there was not a lecture video created for this chapter. Very often in class, I would assign my students the task of presenting the topics. That didn't happen this semester, so I don't have videos for it. So I ask you to please read through carefully and also use online materials to kind of support your learning. The exercise here is focusing on probably, I would say the most important technology in the chapter, and that would be the index database thing. And what we're going to do is we are going to be working with that same contact book that we just created in Chapter 15, but using a different storage technology. So what they want us to do again in this chapter is use the start version from the chapter, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pause the video for a moment while I get my files in order and in the right place. So let's go ahead and all right, now that I've moved my files around, I'm going to go ahead and open up that folder. Make sure I find the right one. All right, and if you got that part of it complete, first file that we're going to need to work with is the contactlibrary.js file. That's going to be in your scripts folder. And we're going to put this stuff at the very top of the file. And I know that the one question I always have when I've worked on this, when they mean at the top of the file, do they mean before the reference or after the reference? What would be your guess? I would do it after that, but still at the top. So I'm going to copy from the PDF here, as I thought I did. So it should look something like that. We're also going to add a variable right down here, and the book is placing it right in this spot, which is basically a variable to hold the database stuff. We're then going to move down to the initialize method, wherever that happens to be, right here. And we're going to adjust that a little bit. We're going to add a few different things. So the button save line is going to stay where it is, and the NS display line is going to stay at the bottom. We got a bunch of stuff to add in between, though. So let's just make a little space there and start dropping it in. And actually what I'm seeing here is that I'll end up replacing this NS display because it actually is embedded inside of some other code. And if you look at what comes out of the book, this is what you should do. Now, the thing that's kind of interesting here is I want you to notice the use of keywords here that are built into JavaScript that directly allow us to interface with the index DB. And the part of that's basically initialized up here. And then really the process now is we're changing from the local storage approach to working with the database approach. And they're just showing you the code that it takes to do that. And I know this is a really quick introduction to this because frankly this is kind of a whole field of study in itself. as you guys can imagine, learning some of these more advanced APIs. But whenever you're doing these database transactions, you're really kind of boiling it down to a few essential functions. And if you've taken a database class or some programming class where we've talked about this, what we call the CRUD operations, right? The create, retrieve, update, and destroy. So usually you have to code those capabilities in. You interact with the database and its API tools that are available, and then write your code so that it interfaces properly. At this point, we're moving down to the save function, and this top part here will stay the same, but the remainder will all get changed. And I think I have it all highlighted here on my other screen. So all the stuff from here on down, and I'm being careful here to make sure I get all of it, that's all going to be replaced. Should look something like that. And I'm actually looking at it and I'm like, actually it should look nothing like that. I don't think my copy paste worked correctly. It must not have hit copy from the source. Let's try that paste one more time. There we go. That's the code we need right there. Moving on to step number 6, page 613. Oh, yes. Practice exercises. Thank you for catching that. Otherwise, we'll be going, what's that error? I don't know what that is. At least let me, now I got it, now I'm like double checking it all. Yep. Yeah, that was a good catch, Courtney. All right, step number 6. We're replacing the code in the display function. So let's find ns display. And we're going to be replacing the stuff here at the bottom. The stuff at the top is fine. And then take a moment to once again double check it. And once again, for whatever reason, it didn't copy in correctly. So something's up with my PDF reader here. When I do a Control-C, it's not picking it up. So that's okay. We'll paste that in, and I'm noticing I put in an extra curly brace and semicolon. That's not good. And then I'm just comparing to what's in the book to make sure it's correct. I'm going to do a Control-S to save while I'm at it. Move on to step number 7. Here we're going to change the load contact function. So let's find that one. In this one, it's only the first line that will say the same. All the rest needs to be replaced. And then on step number 7, one additional change, we have to change the bind to grid results. And basically what we're doing is, because we're moving the information around in a different way now, we have to change that for loop so that it generates the content to match the mechanisms that we're working with now. So just a slightly different way of working with arrays. So we're just changing the for loop to look like that, and I'm just doing a double check right now to make sure it pasted in correctly. And that looks okay to me. If you successfully have completed those steps, kind of the middle to top of page 614, they start showing you the listing of what it all should look like when complete. So if you want to do comparison, it goes from 614 through 615 and on to 16. And hopefully I did it all correct. I'm just kind of making that assumption. And I'm I'm not going to mess with this whole solution file issue I was just having in chapter 15. I'm going to go directly to my file system to run this because we're not needing any server-side components here. So let's go ahead and just do a quick save, make sure everything's all set to go. And I'm going to find it in the file system and launch from there. So that would be here. And same form, right folks? So remember, just different technology driving it on the back end. So go ahead and start dropping in your nonsense text like I have. Is yours working? Because mine's not. And ask me how motivated I am to go back and fix it right now. Especially with just a few minutes left to go in class. My motivation is close to nil. I'm trying to be honest here. All right, so let's look at the index DB, and you can see nothing's coming up. So the code is not reading correctly. Now, could it be that I need to do a refresh here, maybe even a hard refresh? That's a possibility. Why don't I go ahead? Should we just try to get Visual Studio to launch it? Hey, why not? Right? What's the worst thing that can happen? This. All right, let me try doing this again. Let's go to the folder location. Let me make sure I'm in the right folder, I suppose. Yeah, that's this one, this one, this one. You know, one thing I didn't check is what? The console to see if there was any JavaScript errors. Aha! What is it telling me? Unexpected token. Contact library 108. Request on success. You're talking about right here?
Yep.
Okay. Let me just take a look at that really quick in the code. And what line is that right at the bottom? Oh, wow. Well, sure enough, Visual Studio is actually catching it. But just because it's pointing out to this spot doesn't mean that's the right spot. That's all right. Let's look at the. Oh, sure enough, I'm missing one of these. Basically. So let's move to the next line. See if the debugger is going to catch it. Still doesn't like it. All right, but you know what? I'm going to try it. No harm done. So I'm just going to come back to the browser and refresh. So let's try dumping some stuff in here. Mine's still not working. We'll do a Control F5. Something changed. Is anybody having success with it? Okay. Okay, so whatever I did it real hastily and screwed something up. I'm going to tell you right now, because this is my last video for the course. I'm going to end it. I'm going to let it crash and burn and go down in flames. You guys will take the time to troubleshoot it and find it and make it work, because I know the students here in class are getting it to work. I obviously went over it too quickly, but the one thing to look for is once you get it to work is to come in here and look under index database and see the content there. That's kind of the crux of the whole exercise, folks. This is not to make you an expert on this technology, really it's to expose you to it. But I think these are really important tools, both the local storage and the index database, and they're tools that you can utilize to do some pretty sophisticated things we could not do in the past. And unfortunately, when we're learning this technology, you are taught, and I'm one of those people that teach you, that say, well, you can't do databases on your local machine. Guess what? Not true. You can. Welcome to the future. The future is here. Start using it. All right, folks. It's been fun. For those of you that are here in class next week, we do our presentations on our websites, and we will talk more about it then.